Welcome to BSU. I'm Professor K.
And I'm Professor S. And this is 5 Ways to Roleplay AC.
The beautiful thing about D&D is you can play it any number of ways. You have the roleplay heavy groups where it's much more about the acting and getting into character. Or you can just decide to go by the numbers.
Some people enjoy just the numbers, just want to roll some dice, say, yep, your attack hits. Nope, it misses.
Now, when I say a miss, I mean somebody rolled the dice, it didn't meet the enemy's AC or vice versa, and there's no damage taken. You could just say it misses, but we like to get a little bit more theatrical with it.
So let's get right into it. 5 ways to roleplay AC, and here's some ways how.
Number 1, Mama didn't raise no bitch.
This is going to be kind of those things where the barbarian just takes the brunt of the damage from the weapon attack, or your paladin, bam, blasts with the shield and knocks the weapon out of the way. No damage taken.
Exactly. If you want to do get in character as a paladin with all that armor on you, there's no way that blade is going to come down and he's going to do some Neo from the Matrix. Whoa, I'm so agile in all this armor. I'm going to dodge everything you do. No, he's just going to sit there and be like, ha ha, I took your hit with no problem.
That's right. I take your hits, and you can bring more of them.
Or let's take into account the unarmored defense of the barbarian. You could describe it as like, yeah, the barbarian has no armor. They can just jump out of the way. But we had that game with Jeremy, and he was playing a barbarian, and one of his favorite parts was a goblin just stabs him, and he was just like, it didn't do anything. And he was like,
basically just flexing the muscles. And then the weapon just... Tiny creature.
It just adds a nice way for the player to feel that they're cool, that they're badass. You know, you don't want to just say, you dodged it. Cool.
It gets more into the fantasy of this with that kind of action instead of basically playing a board game where you're just moving pieces around and you're like, cool, I got 100 points. Like, those are fun. I like them too, but that's not why I play D&D.
Yeah, if you're playing a barbarian or a paladin, you don't want to say, oh, I dodged the action or I dodged the attack. You want to say, no, I am so badass. I am so tough. I could take any hit. And that just helps them get into character even more.
Yeah.
Or even have it be more epic where it's a part of their storyline, an arc is coming to fruition, and they come up and say, as character development, no, I'm no longer going to hide. I'm going to stand here and protect my friends. And there's a big explosion, bunch of things come at the guy. They're like, oh no, he's going to die. And he's like, I am unhurt.
Number 2, the ninja.
If you have a character that's playing a rogue or a monk, don't just say, oh yeah, you get out of the way of the attack. Like the arrow comes at you and you just go, whoop. Whoop.
Get creative with it. Dodge out of the way. Kick off a rock. Do a backflip. Tuck and roll. Who knows?
As a wise man once said,
you got the 5 Ds. Dodge, dip, duck, dive, and dodge.
You can dodge a wrench. You can dodge a fireball. But in all seriousness, if you're playing a rogue or a monk, you actually can dodge a fireball. So roleplay it like you're the kind of person that can dodge a fireball.
Yeah. Man, sometimes we even get into it where we basically turn it into a slow motion action scene from a movie. Somebody's shooting an arrow at you and pull a Matrix move or something, and your guy's just like slow motion. We like to do that all the time. Just adds a little flourish, you know? Add a little excitement to the game. Make it more of a movie.
And if you can time the music just right,
sometimes the music just falls into place. Sometimes. Number 3, sword play.
We get it. The fighters actually have a maneuver for the Battle Master called parry, where you can use your reaction to reduce damage, blah, 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 blah. What I'm talking about is saying that, oh, I have a guy with a massive sword. I'm fighting another person with a massive sword. Instead of saying like, oh, the sword came down and I moved out of the way, or I just got stabbed with it. We can play it off as
blasted out of the way. Flavor.
That just sounds or feels cooler than just like, I dodged.
You're standing there, you're ready for battle. Goblin comes up, he tries to hit you with the sword. Instead, you're like, pucker. Knock it out of the way with your shield.
Exactly, because you're that badass that you can just knock out hits left or right. Doesn't matter.
Exactly. You just... I've trained for this every day of my life.
We had in our Tyranny of Dragon game, Tonyo had a one-on-one where his character, a Goliath, went toe-to-toe with a half-dragon, and they were both full armor, great weapons out, fighting, and it just seemed really cool every time he would attack. To emphasize how badass the half-dragon was, he would take his sword and just move it out of the way, and you see his great axe slides down the sword as the dragon comes back up and swings it back at his face. It's a lot of that's that flavor text that gets the character like, oh crap, what's gonna happen? Yeah. I need to know what happens next.
Yeah, and that gets exciting. That makes it invested into it. Yeah, like, whoo, this is exciting. It's like watching a movie, but I'm in the movie.
Get your heart racing, get the bump.
Yes. Number 4, using the environment to your advantage.
As one often finds themselves in Dungeons & Dragons, you could be in a very narrow corridor of a dungeon.
A dungeon? Why would you be in a dungeon? Oh, because it's Dungeons and Dragons.
Dun, dun, dun! But yeah, you might find yourself in a dungeon where there's a very narrow corridor that you're trying to go down. The rogue is stealthing ahead.
And he's
walking up. He fails his perception check. All of a sudden, a zombie comes out of the dungeon. Darkness, stuff. What does he do? Oh, he runs up the wall to dodge the zombie going in front of him. Sounds cooler than like,
hey, a zombie just popped up and roll to see if it misses. Okay, it missed. All right, Steve, it's your turn.
And that's just one way you can use the environment. You don't always have to go into that, like we said, the ninjas running up the walls and stuff. You could also say, an arrow got shot at you, but you were able to turn around the tree just as it hit, and you turn around and look at the arrow, and you're like, oh my god, there's an arrow in the tree. I don't know, something like that.
So in the example of the zombie, boom, you flip a table up and duck behind it. Bam, the zombie hits the table instead of you because it didn't make its attack roll against you. Your AC was too high.
Exactly. Or somebody comes at you with the sword and you happen to be by a window and there's some velvet curtains because the curtains are always velvet. You take the curtains, throw it in their face, and he's, slashes through it. Where'd the guy go? I'm still here, bitch.
In the face.
Exactly.
In the face.
But yeah, those are examples of how you can use the environment to add some flair to it. It doesn't have to be like, the guy's just more badass. It's just storytelling. Like, bring the environment where they're at into it. Like with the furniture. Let's say the zombie is not in a dungeon. It's in a dining room of a fancy manor. Then, yeah, it makes sense. Like, take out the silverware, throw it at the zombie, distract it or some shit like that. Do anything to kind of bring the environment into the storytelling of the combat.
Right. Give that flair. Give that flavor. Spicy. An example of that would be you're in a cavern of some sort. It's really moist down there. It's a lot of moisture. It's moist. It's really wet in there. It's slippery. There's like algae sticking on the rocks. And it's slippery. Maybe the monster comes at you. He doesn't make his roll. So instead of missing per se or hitting or you dodge out of the way, maybe that monster slips and busts his face on the floor. Maybe he rolled a critical 1.
That's a good way to roleplay a critical fail.
Yeah. Fall and bust your face open.
Or let's say that somebody's swinging a sword at you and you happen to be in a doorway. They rolled a crit 1. The sword gets stuck in the doorway. I can't get the sword out of the way. Oh no, now the guy has advantage.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not like actual mechanics. It's like, because he rolled a crit fail, he gets the advantage. But it's just cool. It brings the players into it. The players are like, yeah, I'm a badass because this guy's dumb.
Exactly. Like I said, flavor. I love the flavor of it. The excitement that it gives. Magnifique.
Number 5, AC buffs. So not buffs as in, like all muscly and stuff like that, but say like you have a ring of protection. Let's say you have some sort of magical armor or something that enhances your AC. Don't ignore that magical item as soon as it's on the person and just say like, I'm just going to keep it the same way I always roleplay their AC. No, bring it into it. Let's say the ring of protection brings their AC to 16 and the enemy rolls a 15. That 1 point saved them. Let the ring be the star. Let's say an arrow comes at them and the ring glows and a shimmer comes over the player and the arrow off of the aura of magical protection from the ring, almost like a spaceship when it has a force field up and the lasers are just pew pew, up to awesome of a spaceship. It doesn't hurt me.
Or like video games where your character has some kind of like overshield.
Exactly.
It's like an energy shield, if you will.
But yeah, magical items are badass. There's no reason you should just equip them and pretend they no longer exist, except as numbers on paper.
Exactly. So maybe you have the cloak of protection. Instead of it just bink, bink, or things bouncing off you, instead the cloak does some Doctor Strange stuff where it itself goes and swats the arrow out of the way.
Exactly.
Flavor.
That just makes it like, it's no longer, oh, I found this cool cloak that adds to my stuff. Oh my god, this cloak is awesome.
It's like alive, guys.
It's so cool.
It's really alive.
Like, I go places and my cloak protects me. Just small things that enhance the storyline, make things feel more alive, the story more alive, your players feel more alive. You're no longer just sitting at a table rolling dice and counting numbers. You're actually telling a story and a narrative.
And isn't that what we're all in this for? The story.
Or maybe you are all about the numbers and fuck that roleplay bullshit because I'm here for nat 20s.
Hell yeah.
That's fine too.
You play how you want to play. This is just a thing for ideas.
Take it or leave it. I'm Professor K.
I'm Professor S.
We'll see you next class.
See you next class.
Dodge! Won't you?